Do you ever wonder how some people lead so naturally? It's like effortless for them to step into leadership roles. It's like they've discovered some kind of secret sauce. Well, in today's episode, we're going to be sharing those 3 secrets to becoming massively influential. Hey, we're Brit and Chris Carmichael, and you're listening to the Elevated Life podcast. Throughout the 13 years we've been together, we've never ceased in our endless quest to better ourselves.
We've studied top experts, philosophers, and gurus. After years of personal self-experimentation, we've found the tools for shifting your beliefs, moving through fears, and developing a positive mindset.
If you're ready for a breakthrough, then you're in the right place, because we're here to empower you to take control of your life with simple mindset shifts that create radical transformation.
We'll be diving into topics like personal growth, health, philosophy, spirituality, relationships, success, and mindfulness.
So create some space for yourself and get comfy. It's time to become the badass you were born to be. Okay, so there's all this buzz around the word influencer online, especially when it comes to social media. And when we were talking about this month's topic or masterclass that we're teaching inside the Elevated Life Club, it's all on influence. And all I could get when I was like researching topics and ideas to share with a group was influencer marketing, influencer this, influencer that. And so it got me thinking really about what the core of influence and being an influencer means, and why that's really become one of the fastest marketing tools that people are using in business these days. So I wanted to just kind of dive into your brain and ask, why is it that you chose influence? And what got you curious about how we basically affect each other, how we inspire or lead, or even maybe like do the opposite, like sometimes you lead by example of what not to do, right?
It's crazy because influence is literally going through every single thread of our lives. It's whether you get the partner that you're with or not. It's whether you get that job or promotion. It's whether you go after your goals. It's whether you can sell something. It's whether you get out of that speeding ticket. It's whether you get moved to the front of the line. It's everything. Because whenever we communicate with people, which happens in almost every single stage of our life, no matter what we are or where we're going or anything, the communication will always have to be there. Not only how we communicate with other people, but how we communicate with ourselves. How do we talk to ourselves inside to get ourselves to change, to get ourselves to take action, to get ourselves to do stuff that would be much easier if we just sat on the couch and binge Netflix. And so because influence is all around us at all times, this is one of those skills that we have to start nailing down, because otherwise we're basically from a crippled position where we can't use all of the resources that we have. For the most part, everybody's got a mouth or some way that they can communicate. And so this is a topic for everyone. Something where just think about this. If you were 20% better at influencing people, if you walked into a room and 20 to 30% of more people took action on your ideas or bought your product, what would that do to the bottom line of your life? If you walked into your kid's room and you said something and they automatically responded like, oh gosh, no, not you again. But you could influence them, and not only do that, but in a positive way, everything. It's everything that you're doing.
It is, and it's such an attitude too. I'm like really thinking about, what makes someone influential. And obviously we're sharing those 3 secrets today. But when I think about it, for me, like what am I influenced by? It's by someone who's lit up by what they're connected to. And I feel like that goes that's it. So I think about what influences me as an individual, not just as a collective, but me personally. So I feel like we should just dive right into those 3 secrets, because it really does boil down to these 3 things. So if you want to be influential, whether it's in your business or in your relationships, whether it be with your children, your partner, your friends, or your coworkers, these 3 things are going to set you apart from the crowd.
Yeah, and what's interesting is when you start to master them, when you get down to it and when you put focus on them. And when I'm talking about mastery, I'm just talking about going into a place with a plan, going in with a focus, going in not just haphazardly. You don't just walk into the person that you're going to propose to and just be like, oh, well, I'll just wing it when I get in here. If you do, the chances aren't always great. But if you plan for it, if you thought about it, if you'd exercised it, and then you delivered, something new comes out about it. So I want to talk about the first thing, because Brit touched on it. And the first thing that you really want to have, and you can start this right now. This is something you can do today. The other 2 are going to take a little more time. So this one is key that you can do right now. and that is you can be enthusiastic. Your level of enthusiasm will determine how the other people feel about what you're talking about or what you're selling or just your ideas. When you're excited about something, think about how you're pulling people out of their everyday life. If you walk by the average person, he's like, hey, how's it going? They may be a, hey, how's it going too, but it's going to normally be like that. It's going to be like, yeah, life's been okay. And so a lot of times people are looking for some sort of hope in their life. And if you come with good energy, if you come excited about something, if you show up that and you can say, hey, it sounds like, man, if I get into what they're into, maybe I'll be excited too. Maybe this will pull me out of my rut. And so you have to be able to energize and motivate that other person. And you do that by being enthusiastic.
Yes, passion is what pulls me in every single time. It really, when I see someone lit up about it, and I'll never forget this moment. We're in Costco and we crossed paths with someone we worked out at the CrossFit with, and Chris did something that totally changed the game, and it actually set me on a whole new journey of communication with my clients behind the chair. And he asked that person, so man, what are you passionate about? And he was so passionate about duck hunting and duck guides. And Chris and I are vegan at the time, so we're kind of like, okay, that's cool. Just tell us about it. But we were captivated and we listened to him for over 30 minutes standing at Costco talking about different duck calls and how he makes this and how if he could quit his corporate job, he would go to the lake and be a guide for people. Like, it was just so incredible to see him ramble on about fucking duck calls. Like, whoa. And for me, that showed me that's how you get to a soul connection with someone else, is you start asking, what are they passionate about? And that's what I started doing in the salon. And it changed the game in our communication and the conversations. And hell, even Shine School was born because I realized asking someone, hey, what are you passionate about? I realized that 99% of those people said, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing because passion is one of those things that you can control yourself. Like, you decide whether you're really into it, or you decide whether when you're explaining it to somebody, how much energy you're going to bring. I cannot tell you how many clients in so many different businesses I've gotten just by being excited about the work that I do. And a lot of times
you can sell ice to an Eskimo for real.
And a lot
you
of times,
get pumped. People you even bought the web domain, all the cool shit, because people wouldn't stop asking you for like, hey, what was that product you told me about? So you could just like throw it up on there and link it to them.
It's so important to be that person in other people's lives. Like, you just really don't realize how mundane most people are. I mean, they are. And that's so why we watch sporting events. That's why we watch, comedians and shows, because we want to be entertained. We want to be excited in our lives. And a lot of times what we're currently doing isn't enough to really pull us out. So if you can deliver that to your clients or to your kiddos or to your partner, if you can show up with enthusiasm, if you can show up with the joy, if you can pack that into the moment, everybody gets more excited. I mean, it's like everyone's living at a higher level and you're bringing that. And truthfully, it's not that hard. You just have to get them to start picturing what their future will look like, implementing whatever it is that you're talking about. Like, that's really the key to influence. It's not you're telling somebody they should do something. I don't ever do that. I mean, that's, for one, I'm not the judgment guy. Like, I don't care what you do. All I want to do is present you with ideas that may work for you. And if you can try them and you can get excited about it, maybe they'll work for you and do something meaningful in your life.
Yeah, you always have a great way of when you're pumped about products, you never tell people you need this, like you suck if you don't have this toothpaste. You always talk about the pain point that you had and why this particular product is that thing that solves it. And I think that's what you're talking about, painting that future picture of this new thing or this new idea, whether it's a product or an idea or an attitude or mindset, this new thing can actually lead to a more easy experience in the future. And people are looking for that. And when you can show them that what you have, okay, let's talk about like toothpaste, can be that thing for them, then it just makes it so much easier for them to just jump on board and say, okay, I trust you because one, you've done, like, you obviously know the research, you've presented that, you do a great job at Aquarian telling all the bullet points. So I think it's a combination of being excited about it, knowing that you had a pain point and this product served it, and sharing what those things do and how it's going to make it easier for them in the future. I think like that's the structure you talked about in the beginning that makes someone want to change. It's not just enthusiasm, it's enthusiasm followed with this action step plan.
And I think that's what really number 2 talks about a lot. And the second thing that you want to do besides being enthusiastic is you need to decide to be the expert. This is where you come to a decision. Am I going to be an amateur or am I going to be a pro? And you have to make that decision for yourself. And it's really not something that's super complicated. It doesn't mean that you've got 8 degrees in the thing. It just means that you know more about it than whoever it is that you're serving. And so if it's the toothpaste thing, you need to know about that toothpaste. If you're in the salon and you're behind a chair, you need to know about your products. It's not like, oh, well, I don't know. You're the expert. You show up as the expert for your client. You show up as the expert for your kids. So you are delivering to them from a place of, I know what I'm talking about. This is not just, oh, well, I don't know, maybe it'll be okay. No, it's coming from a place of power where you say, well, if you do this, this will happen. I know, because I'm the expert. It's you're delivering that. You don't come out and say it. You prove it to them. It's like with the toothpaste. Hell, the toothpaste that we use is remineralizing. It's got extra calcium in it, which is important if you're a person that is plagued by cavities. And so it's like all these little bitty things that you can add and add and add onto, and the person goes, oh, does mine have that? Oh, so mine doesn't have that. You need to get them comparing what they're currently doing to what it is that you are talking about, and to see a gap between those and how their life would be happier using the expertise that you just delivered to them.
And I think that's what separates the influenced by the influencer is someone who takes the time to actually research, to test, to try it out, to figure it out, and then be willing to assimilate all of that into a presentation, if you will, or a product or a service or something that says, here, I'm going to make it easier for you. And then also, leading into the third secret, and that is being the example. Once you have the excitement for something, then you build the roadmap of how it's possible to kind of bridge that gap. And the thing that makes you credible is that you actually live by example. You walk your talk. You don't just say, hey, like, go practice meditation and yoga, but you're not doing that in your life, or you're not living by a peaceful, harmonious philosophy or purpose. So I think it's really a beautiful synergy when all 3 of those things combine. That, to me, is the secret sauce of what makes someone influential.
And I'll tell you what the best is too, because it takes longer, right? Expertise takes longer than enthusiasm, and leading by example or being that person who is the example takes longer than getting the expertise, because you have to actually implement the knowledge. It's like, I'm excited about the knowledge. Now I've got the knowledge. Now I'm using the knowledge. The greatest part about when you are coming from the place of an example is that people will ask you the questions you no longer have to sell. They will say, how are you doing this? How can I come to you for that? What could I change in my life that would lead me to this thing? What do I need to do in my relationship because this happened? How do I go after that kind of a job thing? They will come to you for the advice. Once you lead by enough example, and once you've lived it for a while, what ends up happening is you tack on the accolades. You tack on the really big benefit of being able to have word of mouth. People are like, oh, you're the guy who can do that. Oh, yeah. Or you're the girl who's able to pull these kind of people together. You're great at networking. Like, people already know. And so you can use one of these or all of them based on any stage that you're at. Because you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you're not enthusiastic about it, no one really cares. They just don't. Unless they're in a position where whatever they need is so painful the way they're currently doing it that they have to change. That's the only way that being the expert will really do well for them. And so if you can add all these together, if you can live by whatever it is, that's why I think that one of the biggest things that we can help influence people is by being authentic. Is that if you can live the same way that you sell, or the same way that you teach, or that you train, then it's so much easier because you don't ever have to fake that. Like, the enthusiasm that I have for the stuff that I buy, or the stuff that I recommend to people, is genuine enthusiasm. I am not making that up. It's not like an acting thing. This is stuff that I actually use, that I actually care about, that I actually spent time to research and implement in my life. And a lot of it ended up not working. So I scrapped all that, and then I went back again, trying not to be frustrated, and try it again. And then I offer that to people, like, hey, here's kind of the path that I took. And steps 3 through 10 sucked, but I found out on the 11th that you can skip the 4 through 7. And so, I can share that journey with them. And that's the kind of influence that I'm talking about. What we want to do with people is influence them positively. Anytime that our goals are separate from the person that we're influencing, we show up at a moral dilemma, because we don't really want to take over someone's life. The idea of free will is so powerful, because we want to let always the other person choose. Now, we can make the choice a more obvious slant in our way, and that's what influence would be doing. But you'd want to do that where it serves both of you. Like, every situation that you get into should be win-win, or at least that should be the main goal. Sometimes you can't do that, and that's okay. But like, you want to be winning with the other person as often as possible, because you do want them to recommend you to somebody else, and whatever that is. And so make sure that when you're influencing, you're always thinking about, how can this help the other person? Like, how will this benefit them? Not just how can I put money in my pocket? Can it give me fame, glory, whatever? How can this benefit them? And if you show up in the service of attitude, it's much easier to influence, because you genuinely care. Like, that's the big secret. You genuinely care about the person. The reason why you're doing these things is because they matter to you. And you're using that with your tone, with your delivery, with how you feel about it, how you feel about them, and you're telegraphing that all through your words and letting them know.
It makes me think of the quote from Joseph Campbell about following your bliss. Because if you follow your bliss, ultimately that's what lights you up, your passion, the enthusiasm, the spirit within, the inspiration. When you start to follow that, you can't help but want to learn more. You're excited, you have your own built-in motivation, and that momentum creates that expertise because you want to keep learning, you want to keep growing. I remember in the beginning of hair school, I could not stop consuming knowledge. Hell, even today, I'm still taking certifications and ongoing education, because there's just so much more wisdom to soak in. And I want to do that. I want to keep learning, because it's something that I love to do. And I feel like that's where, if anything, if you go wrong, it's by not following what just super lights you up, where you could be, for the next 10 years of your life, you could just dedicate your time and energy to learning more, to growing, to understanding. And I believe they say it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. So start now.
The other big secret right here that Brit's reminding me of is, you've got, if these are the ways that we influence people, then these are also the ways that we are influenced. And so you have to look at, like, whatever goal you have in your life. You want to make more money, you want to get in better health, whatever it is. Find someone who is enthusiastic about that, especially if you can get them in your main friend group. But if you can get them to listen to them on a podcast, if you can see them on a YouTube video, if you can go to their courses or be at their events or whatever, you want to be doing that, because they will help get you to change faster because of their enthusiasm. You will take on more of that energy. You'll start to think more about how they are thinking. So find the people who are excited, find the people who know the stuff, like who have done the research, who have spent the hours in, and then find the people who are also living that as an example. So they're meal prepping, if it's a healthy thing, they're meal prepping, or they're meditating, or they're doing yoga, or they're doing whatever it is that you've decided, hey, I'm passionate about this for right now. Find out the people who are doing these three things, because it's okay for us to be influenced by other people as long as it's positively serving us. We want that. We want to be in communion with people because we want to get excited too, and then spread that message out as well. So that we're all kind of helping each other. We're all kind of holding each other's hands and saying kumbaya a little bit.
Speaking of holding each other's hands, if you don't have that high vibing community to plug into, we highly recommend you come join us inside the Elevated Life Club for ongoing group coaching, monthly meditation, and yoga practices. This month is all about this topic. So if you're feeling inspired by this, if you're feeling called to step into leadership, or you're feeling like a fraud or imposter syndrome is coming up because you're actually being pushed to be, the universe kind of has a funny way of like elevating those leaders and kind of shining the spotlight and saying, okay, let's overcome your fear and your darkness so that you can be the light and you can lead by example. And that's exactly what the Elevated Life community is. It's elevators living their truth and leading by example.
Yeah, and too, if you have that that gut feeling of you're inspired to lead, stop backing down. Like, do not back down from that calling. It will continue to knock on the door. And so it
doesn't go away.
Yeah, and the faster that you get into that, and the faster you get around people that will help you achieve that, the better that you start feeling in your life. That's why a lot of times things feel like they're not connecting the way that they should. It's because we're backing down for something that seems a little bit challenging to us. But if we get around people who are good at it, just like public speaking, there's so many people that are afraid of public speaking. It's actually the biggest fear that people have. Public speaking is. And so if you get around people that are good at it, though, and you talk to them, you ask them, hey, how do you do this? How do you do your present? Like, it all starts to click together for you. You don't have to make this journey alone. That's the beautiful part about the internet now. We're here together to help. Like, you have an entire support system that's huge. I mean, it's like we're all connected. And so if you're in a space where you're like, man, I'm being so called, don't squash that. Like, don't, like, that means that there are people out there that need what you have. That's really what it means. Like, this is your mission now. And so make sure that you're getting around people that are going to fill you with that energy so that you can deliver. Like, backing down, you don't need to do that anymore. Like, it used to be hard, but it's easier. Like, we have communities now. We're here to help. And so if you're feeling that this year, like, make sure you get in with somebody. You can get in with us, find out wherever your group is, like, get in with them. Like, these are your people so that you can do the stuff. It'll make it so much easier.
You know, every action you take really is influencing the people that are witnessing your expression.
Oh, gosh.
So if you're acting out of fear, then you're also influencing fear. And that's like, is that in your integrity? Like, do you want to stand for that? So feel like keeping that at the back of your head, like at the back of your mind, like the way that you show up for your children, the way that you show up for your partner or for yourself or for your company or team or whatever that may be, like every single moment you're influencing and broadcasting, one, how you want to be treated, two, what people think of, like how you set your self-worth. Like, I feel like all of that's unconsciously being broadcast through the way that you show up as an influencer. It's interesting because just recently, it's so funny just talking about this conversation at the event that we went to this last weekend where I did the breath work. The photographer came up to me and he said, wow, when you walked into the room, I thought, whoa, she's here. And that's influence. I didn't say a word. It's not necessarily with our words. It's the power and the presence that we bring to the experience.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with so much of our communication is unconscious. You know, it's so much of our body language. It's how we're standing. It's what we're thinking in the moment, because a lot of that's telegraphed. Whenever someone's sad and depressed and they're thinking sad and depressed thoughts, you can look at them and know that. If someone comes in a room with a charisma and they are powerful and you're like, oh my gosh, you feel that too. So whenever you go into a place, go into there with that. Why not? Well, what's the big difference energetically? It's not that much of a difference, but the payoff is so huge. And you can get people onto your side. You can get people to trust you faster. You can get people to open up to you faster. You can have so many doorways open up where people are like, man, I feel like I've known you for forever. It's because of a presence that you set off. So much of this is unconscious. Mm-hmm. It's not always just about knowing the words to say. It's about how you deliver them. It's about listening to the other person. It's about really understanding what are the needs of people and how you serve them with your unique talents.
Yeah, and not making it about you. I feel like someone who influences isn't necessarily, I mean, of course, there's always like that group of people that operates this way, but I feel like the real genuine influencers,
the new influencer,
yeah, the new type of genuine influencer really doesn't have to do it from a place of ego where they're like, it's about me and power and look at me and I'm the expert. It's really about, I know my shit and I want that for you too.
Yep.
And I feel like when you come from that place, it's so genuine that people can feel that, and that's what makes it so, I feel like, effortless, because anytime I've come across someone who has inspired or influenced me, it's always given me hope that it can be easy. Like, oh, you've been there, but you're on the other side. All right. Like, it's possible.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's interesting because, I mean, basically what you just said is that, it's impossible to change people, but it's very easy to inspire people to change. That's an easier thing. Changing them is very difficult, but we can inspire them. And there's so many things that we can do to do that. And honing in on that skill is going to pay off in every single piece of your life and in every interaction and conversation that you have. Like, it's okay to be that change. It's okay to step up into that leadership role and to take this life sort of by the horns and to be like, you know what? I am stepping up. This is my time.
It's your time to shine.
I love it.
So whether that's enthusiasm, expertise, or leading by example, you really are the new wave of leaders of love and light, and you're here to make a difference. So remember, the power that you have and the energy that you bring to the table really is making a difference in the world. Thank you for tuning in. And if you love this, please take a screenshot, share it on social, tag us at the Elevated Life Club, and we'll catch you guys next week. Peace. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Elevated Life Podcast. Want more? Join us at theelevatedlifeclub.com for mindset upgrades, lifestyle hacks, and spiritual tools to elevate your soul.
Each month features a new masterclass, meditation, yoga practice, and more. to help you transform your life one step at a time.
Come join the 7 or Above Club.